The impacts of climate change has been evident across the world, with temperatures rise that have broken previous records. With ongoing summer reaching its peak in Nepal, many Tarai-based regions have reported of temperatures above 41 degrees that has crippled daily lives, daily wage workers being the most affected. Good evening, I'm Sarah Sapsanama. Let's begin with the headlines of the hour. Prime Minister Dahal reiterates his state visit to India has been more fruitful and productive than the last one. Discussions on the budget for next fiscal continues at the House of Representatives. The Council of Ministers decides to table bill related to energy trade at the Parliament, also approves the felling of trees in Raswa and Nuwakot for transmission line. Parts of China and Southeast Asian nations in the midst of heat waves that have broken more than 1,000 daily, monthly and all-time records. And Nepal's cricket coach Monty Desai's presence at the match against Scotland uncertain due to visa issues. Hence Desai could fly directly to Zimbabwe. Prime Minister Pushpa Kamal Dahal has reiterated that his state visit to India has been more fruitful and productive than the last one. Speaking at the National Assembly, Premier Dahal clarified that he held a transparent discussion with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and that the visit had only raised trust among the two nations. The Premier added that it was a historic moment to hear the Indian Prime Minister express commitment to resolve border disputes. Dahal claimed that pending issues related to 1950 treaty had been tabled and, in his own words, game-changing steps have been taken. Premier Dahal called the energy agreement a historic achievement that has opened doors to national prosperity. The Prime Minister expressed hopes of bringing in billions of investments in near future. He added bilateral parleys focused on the issue of dam in Lakshmanpur and that officials of both the sides had been directed to find a solution before the monsoon. Likewise, the Premier assured that the Indian side was optimistic about high-altitude air route, adding that it was also an achievement to get permits for smaller flights. In response to the criticisms from all quarters, he clarified that it was only a coincidence that the citizenship bill was certified on the same day that he was scheduled to leave for India visit. Now, discussions on the budget for next fiscal year continue today as well at the House of Representatives. Lawmakers from the ruling parties have continued to defend the budget, saying it will improve the country's reeling economy by raising capital expenditure and reducing unproductive expenses. Opposition lawmakers, meanwhile, have questioned the implementation part of the budget, saying that the economic development priorities were unclear and that the budget had been distributed in an uneven manner. Lawmakers Upendra Yadav and Amresh Kumar Singh expressed reservations, saying that the budget allocated for Madhya province, that is behind in terms of human index, had been very low. During the 0 hour of the session today, lawmakers demanded the government withdraw the decision to scrap district offices of Election Commission, saying that it would weaken transparency of elections. Lawmakers also raised concerns on the delay in the construction of Mid-Hill Highway, road security, exploration of petroleum ores, citizenship bill, scarcity of seeds and fertilizers, and landless squatters, among others. The government has decided to table bill related to energy trade at the Parliament. The decision was made by the Council of Ministers held today. Other decisions by the Cabinet include prohibiting stopping emergency services as a means of protest and approving the felling of trees in Raswa and Nuwakot forest regions for the construction of transmission lines for Mailun Khola hydropower project. Likewise, the Cabinet has decided to transform the industrial area in Kavre's Pachkal into Women Industrialists Special Area. The Cabinet has also approved Kathmandu Metropolis's Mayor Balin Shah's application to travel to Brussels, Belgium to attend a conference. Moving on, CPI-UML has removed the age limit of 70 years for party leadership. UML Secretariat meeting has decided to remove the age limit, which will help age leaders in running for leadership. Analysts say this decision will prove an obstruction to the second-generation leaders and youth leaders. The party's current chair, KP Sharma Oli, is 72 years old. Along with Oli, there are several other leaders that are around 70 years of age. This decision will allow them to run for leadership in the next general convention and continue their party careers for life. A hearing has begun on the fake Bhutanese refugee scam in Kathmandu District Court. Yesterday, government attorney presented their arguments. Today, law practitioners representing the defendants put forth their arguments. Law practitioners representing defendants Keshav Dalal and Sanu Bhandari argued that there was no ground to keep those alleged in custody and that they made a demand by Government Attorney's Office and that in fact the demand by Government Attorney's Office of 275 million rupees fine from the defendants was unjustified. They have been given 6 days to present their arguments. Justice Prem Prasad Neupani's bench has been hearing the case since Sunday and will decide whether to keep the defendants in custody or grant bail. The fake Bhutanese refugee scam has pulled top political leaders into controversy, including former Deputy Prime Minister Top Bahadur Rai Majhi, former Home Minister Balkrishna Khand, Secretary Teknarayan Pandey, the then Home Minister Ram Bahadur Thapa and Security Advisor Indrajit Rai. 30 individuals have been alleged of carrying out the scam. 18 of them are in custody while 12 are absconding. They have been charged for organized crime and crime against state, among others. We'll take a short break here. More news coming up. General lives in Mahottari in the Tarai region have been affected due to rising temperatures. Mahottari's temperature this recent time has crossed 41 degrees Celsius. Daily wage workers, among others, have been the most affected as they express of difficulty in working in the daytime. As a result, they are unable to make a living. In a northern region of Mahottari district, locals have been facing water shortages as sources have dried up. Schools in most places across the district have been closed till Friday this week due to rising heat. Authorities say there are high chances of the region witnessing a heat wave. Now, ministries in Lumbini province that throughout the year are deserted has seen flocks of leaders and cadres making rounds to log budgets as the new fiscal year approaches. At the provincial levels, budgets are formed, putting into consideration the budget ceiling determined by the federal ministries, provinces' 5-year plans and progress of projects in the previous year, among others. Sources must also be evaluated during budget formation. Priority areas are set based on population, geography and internal revenue sources. However, in the absence of periodic plans and directives for it, the province has been calling for budget proposals from public representatives. This has resulted in leaders and cadres flocking to ministries to get the budget for their constituencies. Proposals are being made without considering the concept of inclusion, and most have also been called unjustified. Experts warn that it is highly likely the budget will be ineffective and call for periodic provincial plans that will support informing budgets based on priority areas. The Nepal-India border in Saptari has been an easy route to bring in goods without paying custom charges in recent time, which the government has yet to monitor, causing a loss of revenue. Some 7 months ago, a police constable lost his life following a brawl over smuggling issue in a police post of Mohanpur in Saptari's Chinnamasta rural municipality. 2 months ago, scuffles were reported in Kosi Canal after armed police force team illicitly demanded for money from a woman for the goods she brought from the Indian side. Local administration back then announced of taking action against the deployed police personnel for demanding bribe. Meanwhile, Saptari's Federation of Industry and Commerce has said, in fact, its call to local police administration in controlling the activity along the border region has not been addressed. The Federation has alleged of a nexus between the police administration and those bringing in goods from India without clearing taxes. They say goods brought without clearing customs had reduced the sales of domestic goods by up to 50%. The senior-most member of the indigenous and marginalized Raute community, Karna Bahadur Shahi, has passed away at the age of 94. The deceased has been buried as per the community's rituals. The Raute community that arrived and had been living in a jungle of Dare Ghat in Dailek's Bhairavi rural municipality from Nabistan 2 weeks ago. The tribal community tends to move from one place to the other every 2 to 3 months. The community don't have a chief mourners of the deceased but have a tradition where male members refrain from shaving any part of their body for 30 days. They wash clothes on Tuesdays and Saturdays between the 11th and the 13th day of the passing of their members. Raute population has been estimated at 141. Now, moving on, Tribhuvan University is to contract those enlisted in the waiting list of civil service examination. With this step, the university expects to control politicization in appointments. Departments had been appointing people based on political alliances as the Tribhuvan University Service Commission had struggled to meet human resource demand. A large number of positions, including administration officer, accounts officer, office assistant, are vacant at the moment at the university. It's time now for our segment Public Pulse, where you text us with your opinion.
Public Pulse.
The question is, what do you think of the government's decision to raise the number of countries for foreign employment? Your options are A, unable to provide employment, B, to raise remittance, and C, to create opportunities. The voting is on. Type NEWS, select your option A, B or C and send it to 34001 to share your opinion with us. Let's move on to the international update. Parts of China and surrounding East Asian nations, including Thailand and Vietnam, are in the midst of a several-month heat wave that has broken more than 1,000 daily, monthly and all-time records. The record heat comes on the heels of similar episodes in the summer of 2022. Just since June began, all-time records have fallen in dozens of locations across South China, with temperatures reaching at least 42.2 degrees Celsius and mountainous locations also witnessing heat on a level rarely seen. Record highs for the month of June have been observed in Vietnam, where Muang La reached 43.8 degrees Celsius, and in Hong Kong, where it reached 37.9 Celsius. In late April and May, Thailand, Vietnam and Laos established national all-time heat records with temperatures over 43.5 degrees Celsius. Japan just finished its warmest March to May period on record, according to the Japan Meteorological Agency. The country and surrounding area later faced a pulse of high heat on the periphery of Typhoon Mawar before the storm delivered all-time record 24-hour rainfall to Japan's Pacific coast, including 19.3 inches in Toba. Rounds of records have also occasionally spread westward towards the Middle East. A new pulse of extreme temperatures is expected to envelop much of China for the next 7 to 10 days. Iran has reopened its embassy in Saudi Arabia after 7 years of closure, nearly 3 months after the two countries agreed to restore bilateral ties under a Chinese brokered deal. Iranian Deputy Foreign Minister Ali Reza Bigdeli and Saudi Deputy Minister for Foreign Affairs for Consular Affairs Ali Al-Yosef cut the ribbon at the opening ceremony in the Saudi capital of Riyadh. Bigdeli and Iranian Charge d'Affaires Hassan Zarnigar addressed the opening ceremony. Bigdeli highlighted the importance of the occasion for the relations between Iran and Saudi Arabia, saying that with the rehoisting of the flag of Iran in Saudi Arabia and vice versa, the cooperation between the two countries enters a new era. Zarnigar thanked China and other countries for their efforts in improving relations between Iran and Saudi Arabia. In March, Saudi Arabia and Iran held dialogue in Beijing and reached a groundbreaking agreement to resume diplomatic relations and reopen their embassies and missions. The World Bank has raised the global economic growth outlook for 2023 to 2.1%, a 0.4% increase from the January forecast in its latest Global Economic Prospects report. According to the report published on the bank's official website, global growth is projected to slow significantly amid high inflation, tight monetary policy, and more restrictive credit conditions. In the report, the World Bank also called for comprehensive policies to foster macroeconomic and financial stability, especially in vulnerable emerging market and developing economies, while widespread bank turmoil and tighter monetary policy have hit hard. The report also increased China's annual growth outlook to 5.6%, compared with 4.3% in its January forecast and the 5.1% in the East Asia and Pacific Economic Update published in April. Indonesia's President Joko Widodo has promoted his country's planned new $32 billion capital to global investors and promised high investment returns. Widodo said that Indonesia's economy, which is growing steadily at around 5%, coupled with low inflation, should be enough to convince investors. Southeast Asia's largest economy is building a smart city spanning nearly 260,000 hectares in the jungles of Borneo Island to replace the sinking capital of Jakarta on Java Island. Jakarta has pledged that only 20% of the total construction cost of Nusantara will be borne by the state budget, with the remaining coming from private investors. Meanwhile, European Central Bank has said inflation pressures in the 20 Eurozone nations remain powerful, resulting in anemic demand, sluggish business and eroded consumer confidence in the region. ECB's President Christine Lagarde cautioned that the manufacturing sector is still grappling with unexecuted and backlog orders, but with a deteriorating outlook. The economic growth in the Eurozone almost stalled in early 2023 amid higher energy costs and supply chain bottlenecks, according to an ECB's report. Lagarde acknowledged signs of moderation in core inflation in the Eurozone, but reaffirmed it was too early to call a peak in that key gauge of price growth. Eurostat's flash estimate showed headline inflation has declined from its October peak and stood at 6.1% in May. Food price inflation remains elevated but is declining and stood at 12.5% in May, down from 13.5% in April.
Sports news.
Nepali cricket team's head coach Monty Desai has yet to receive his visa for South Africa, while the team is already there for preparation for the ICC World Cup global qualifiers. Coach Desai is in India waiting for his visas. The Cricket Association of Nepal (CAN) has said if his visa is not issued, arrangements will be made to directly send Desai to Zimbabwe. Nepal's national team is playing against Scotland tomorrow. Assistant coach Basanta Shahi will lead the team in the absence of head coach Desai. Nepal is scheduled to play against the Netherlands on Saturday. Desai had been in the US on a holiday and is in India at the moment. Desai had applied for a visa for South Africa a week ago. The national team had reached South Africa a week ago for training and will leave for Zimbabwe on Sunday next week. Nepal will play against UAE on the 13th of June and Oman on the 15th. Nepal's match against host Zimbabwe has been scheduled for 18th of June. Nepal is in the Group A alongside two-times World Cup winners West Indies, League Two contenders USA, the Netherlands and Zimbabwe. That is all for the moment. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.